Welcome, everybody, to episode 10 of You Gotta Hear This. I'm joined, as always, by Mike Monzetta.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me, John.
Oh, thank you for being here. Joe Boynton.
Hello, hello.
And Greg G-Man Urquhart.
Hi, go Bills.
Go Bills. Well, for now, we'll see next week. Things can get tense next Sunday.
We might be at odds next week.
We might be rivals. I don't want to assume anything, but I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to beat the Browns today, which would put them up against the Buffalo Bills next week.
Correct.
So we're on a collision course, as they say.
Much like Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan were in WrestleMania 6.
Yes. Yep. Who could forget that? So before we go any, what's that? Sorry.
I still haven't forgotten it.
I know. I never knew about it, so I had never got the chance to forget about it. Before we go further, though, I want to give a shout out to Colin Alexander, who designed an amazing logo for us. He just sent that, and Greg checked it out yesterday, I think, right, Greg?
Yep, last night.
Yeah, and he's a graphic designer and a photographer. He's on the Instagram, colinalexander.d, and he does great work. And he just sent that over to us out of the blue. So that was super sweet. Thank you, Colin.
And if all goes well, you already saw it in the beginning of this video.
Yeah.
I emailed it to you, so you should have it.
We will. Yeah, we are upping the production value at episode 10 here. So
absolutely.
Times.
If you have a podcast that talks about music that you enjoy and you need a logo, I strongly recommend Colin.
Yeah.
And he's from Ontario, Canada, I think.
Oh, nice.
Is
that where Brett the Hitman Hart is from? Brett the Hitman Hart?
Brett the Hitman Hart I thought he was from Montreal.
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
Or is that just where the screw job happened?
Yeah, you're right. That's where the screw job happened. Okay, so he's from Montreal because that was his hometown. All right.
Wow, you guys know a lot about wrestlers.
A lot about wrestling.
So much.
Calgary,
yeah.
The Hart Foundation's from Calgary.
Okay.
And Stu Hart had his little basement dungeon.
Well, there you go. All right.
Well, so that is unrelated to today's topic, and today is another exciting and kind of silly topic, but to me, these are some of the funnest. This week we're discussing our favorite fictional bands, and this was fun. I like all of it. I like the more serious, real discussions as well. I think we've been like going back and forth from week to week, which is nice. You know, like last week was a pretty big subject. Best American band. There's a lot to unpack there. Favorite fictional band, not as much to unpack. A lot of fun.
Yeah, just more fun than anything.
Yeah. So I think I've been picked as the first person today. And even though this is a silly one, I did give it a lot of serious consideration. I tried to approach it like I would anything else. And after a lot of prayer and fasting and thought, I landed on Spinal Tap.
Nice. I think Spinal Tap is the best fictional band. I think there's no arguing that Spinal Tap, whatever any of us say, is going to be the best fictional band of all time.
Yeah. And they're like almost, they straddle a weird line between fiction and nonfiction, because I'm not sure if you guys are all aware of this, but the people who played the characters also wrote and performed the music on recordings and performed live. So in a certain way, they are as real as any band, I guess, with any band that has like aliases or plays, some sort of a person other than themselves. But yeah, they all wrote and recorded and played their real instruments. Even I didn't even know this till I looked up, but even the drummer and the keyboard player, like some of the people who weren't the main actors, also for real played their instruments on their albums. So I mean, I feel like everyone's familiar with Spinal Tap. I don't know if I need to give that much of a background about it, but just real quick. It was a fictional band they made a fictional documentary about in the 80s. And one of the things about it is there's so much in it that really rings true to life if you've been in a band, specifically if you toured in a band. It's kind of amazing how many things really have just have rung true throughout the years. And I read some interviews with musicians who talked about seeing it back, in the 80s, and not even be able to laugh at it because it was like too painful. It was like too much, like what they have experienced in their real lives. And so I thought that was interesting. Also, when it came out, this is 1984, so pre-internet, obviously, like pre-access to a lot of information. A certain number of people who saw the movie thought it was an actual documentary about a band that they had just never heard of, that it was just some obscure band and a real documentary. So yeah, there's just a lot to be said for the movie itself, for the fictional band, and like their commitment to what they did. They recorded a studio album for it. They recorded another studio album in the 90s, and then did like a 25th anniversary recording where they went back and did like some acoustic versions of songs, and did some like unreleased songs from the album back in the 80s. And so yeah, to me, a lot of that is that commitment of spending the time and energy to go into the studio, record a full album of songs, which I think for the most part in the movie you would, there's maybe like 2 or 3 where you hear the whole song, but mostly they're recording entire songs that you're hearing maybe 20 seconds of, 30 seconds a minute. And I really love that. I think that attention to detail and that commitment for a silly comedy movie is really amazing. And so I'd say, hands down, one of the best fictional bands ever created, and one of the best as far as the ability to actually perform as that fictional band, and the attention and commitment to the details of it.
I love that they had just like, you'll have for the movie, there's certain parts of songs you just need like the verse or a bridge. You just need a little bit to fill in what's going on in the movie. You don't have to go into the studio and then record the entire song around it, or maybe the album came first, kind of a chicken or the egg kind of thing, I guess, unless I missed something.
I think they did it together. I think they recorded the album while they were making the movie.
Dude, that's love. That's some attention to detail that is just.
Also has the very talented Michael McKean.
That's right. Yep.
He's great. I love that guy.
As the lead singer.
Yep.
And then Christopher Guest as Nigel Tufnell.
And he even played,
what are the names?
I looked into them for my pick too, and I saw that they played Wembley Stadium in like 2009 or something.
Really?
Like for real. Like.
Well, they're not a bad band. They're a really good band. And I think that's kind of the point of this show. Like, their songs are all really good, but they're all also really funny.
They're really, like, I would say for the like 80s rock where it was at in like 1984, the songs are maybe only about like 15 to 20% more ridiculous than what a lot of actual bands were doing. They didn't really go over the top, I think, in a lot of ways, like I feel like there were bands in 1984 that could have put out a song called Sex Farm, it's not that ridiculous.
I remember seeing a lot of Spinal Tap t-shirts in high school. I'm like, who the fuck is this band? Like,
yeah, me too.
Because there was like no internet back then. So you're like, and then you try to like look, like if you're at the store and you don't see anything for this band, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I was confused about that for a long time too, because I don't think I saw it until like the late 90s, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. My first exposure to Spinal Tap was I saw them in a Columbia House advertisement in a TV guide. And I think it was for that album that you were saying was released in the 90s. And I was like, what the fuck is this? because they all look like idiots, but they were all super jacked, and I didn't realize that that was a joke. Like in real life, they weren't super jacked, and I'm like, who the fuck are these guys? So then I
Dude.
googled it, and I watched the movie, and they were like the precursor to maybe like Borat or Ali G. They're
Yeah.
people who are saying things completely ridiculous, but completely deadpan. So you're like, the thing that you just said is stupid, but you're not acknowledging that it's stupid. And I feel like they were kind of the frontrunners of that genre of comedy. But then,
Some of
having
the-
said that, I thought their music was fantastic.
Some of the song titles include Christmas with the Devil,
That was a bonus track, I think.
Cups and Cakes, America, The Majesty of Rock, Bitch School.
Bitch School is a good song. The lyrics.
I do
are
like
great.
Bitch School.
I don't think I ever heard that one. That
That's
one was
the
on their one
one-
from the 90s, right? Pretty
Yeah,
sure.
Bitch School is from 1992, and then Give Me Some Money, Big Bottom, and then of course Sex Farm. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And well, and another thing, again, I mean, this if most people have seen it, you would know this, but another thing that's really impressive is in the movie, they didn't just record the songs as the band in the 80s, they recorded songs that like supposedly the singer and guitar player had written back in like the 60s, and then another one the band had put together in the 70s, all with like the complete production and vibe of that era. So there's like a variety of styles, like before you get to like their, you know, hard rock 80s style in there as well. So that's also impressive.
Crazy.
Another thing too, just about the movie that I didn't know for sure, but it was like 90% improvised.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's another thing. A lot of that, like Mike, when you talk about them like being deadpan and not like laughing or being silly or not, like they had to do that for like in a moment when somebody else is like saying something that's genuinely really funny, and they were just like able to go along with it straight faced and like and not break character or like giggle or anything, which is pretty amazing.
I'm seeing the name Dweezil Zappa come up a bunch. Is one of them is one of the members related to Frank Zappa, like a son, I think, or
Not
yeah,
that
it looks
I'm
like
aware of, no. I don't know. He might have done stuff with them. Dweezil
Maybe.
Zappo, I think, is a lot younger than any of the
okay.
Spinal Tap guys, I would think.
I have to look
But
it up.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he's done with them.
That movie is so hilarious. If anybody's listening to this and has a couple of hours of free time during this quarantine and has not seen Spinal Tap, you have to go and watch it. It's absolutely hilarious. It was the front runner to that style of comedy that is like Borat or Ali G. But then those guys did a bunch of other movies like Waiting for Guffman and which I thought was hilarious. And then
Yeah.
The Mighty Wind, which was also hilarious.
Yeah. So
Which also
Christopher
involved a lot
Guest,
of big bands.
yeah, Christopher Guest after Spinal Tap. So Rob Reiner directed Spinal Tap, but then after that, Christopher Guest kind of made that his thing, is like the fake documentary, and a lot of times revolving around music or like Waiting for Guffman, like musical theater. So that kind of set his whole career off in a certain direction, which is great. I mean, all those movies are amazing. And yeah, I don't know. I've kind of been talking about Spinal Tap as if everybody's seen it. I don't know if I should assume that or be giving more information about it. But I guess most everyone I've ever met has seen it, but I don't know what that means.
Cool.
I like it.
Well, yeah, I think that sums it up for Spinal Tap.
I'll put it on my watch list. I haven't. I mean, it's been.
Have you never seen Spinal Tap?
I mean, I've seen it like when I was probably like 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm
I had
at.
I had a cousin who was like very into like hair bands and all that. And he would always be watching weird shit. So I'd imagine I've probably seen it.
You gotta go back to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Now there's so much. It's also one of those where like I feel like every 5 minutes of it is so packed with something funny, like such like like you can watch it so many times and find things that you didn't find the last time you watched it, and like I feel like I've watched it every couple of years or so, like for the past 10 or 15 years, and it never gets old, and there's always something you pick up on because of all the attention to detail, and also just the amount of jokes and the amount of subtle jokes. It's just, it really holds up for multiple viewings.
Yeah, John brought up a great point in that the jokes in the movie are so subtle that they'll say something hilarious, but they won't say it like a joke. And you as a viewer will be like, that was funny, but like, am I supposed to laugh now? Like, they don't, but that's the genius of it.
Yeah. One of my favorite jokes in that is they're talking about one of their drummers who died. There's a running joke where their drummers just die every few years, which is just funny on its own for some reason. But one of them choked on vomit, and they make a point to they're discussing it, and then it wasn't his own vomit.
Oh God! Someone murdered him with their vomit.
And well, then they said they never found out whose vomit it was. And then one of the guys, I think Christopher Guest, says that you can't really dust for vomit.
See, that's hilarious.
Yeah, and it's all so like, it goes by so quickly, and they're so serious the way they're discussing it. I mean, and talking about someone dying, and it's really amazing.
I think Spinal Tap, the movie, is the ultimate litmus test for, are you funny? If you're a funny person and you watch Spinal Tap, you'll think it's funny. But if you watch Spinal Tap and you don't get it, you're probably not a funny person. Probably not somebody I would want to hang out with, to be honest. But I don't know. Spinal Tap is the perfect barometer of my sense of humor. If you think Spinal Tap is hilarious, I think we're probably going to get along.
It's a little bit hard for me to picture somebody watching it and not finding it hilarious, but I'm sure those people exist. I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Mike also said like they did. Were they kind of? You said they did other films together. So were they kind of like a little comedy troupe type thing that would? So like there would be like the Eugene Levy, like he had his whole
exactly comedian. Yeah, but he was part of the troupe. He became part of the troupe later on. He became part of the troupe.
Yeah, I think in Waiting.
Was he in Spinal Tap?
He's not in Spinal Tap. No.
Okay.
I think he was in Waiting for Guffman though, which was
absolutely
the first one that Christopher Guest did in that style. And yeah, it was like there was like 3 or 4 after Waiting for Guffman with a lot of those same people.
Yeah,
and then like
if you go down like the Eugene Levy wormhole, like he's got that Best in Show movie, and like him and Catherine O'Hara do so much together.
Yeah,
Best in Show is so good.
It's so funny.
Yeah, and then for Mighty Wind, which was the Christopher Guest one that was about folk music, so all the guys from Spinal Tap were in that as very different characters playing very different types of music, but that was a sort of reunion of the band. I don't think that those guys were in many of the other. I can't remember if Harry Shearer was. I know Michael McKean was in Best in Show, but yeah, I mean the 3 of them I think have kind of continued to do stuff on and off. Oh, also I wanted to mention this, by the way. Harry Shearer, who plays Derek Smalls, the bass player, released a solo album a couple of years ago as the bass player Spinal Tap, putting out his own album.
Great.
And it's amazing.
Is it all just bass licks?
Yeah, that's what I assumed. Like,
just a bunch of noodling on the bass.
Noodling the whole time.
No, he did go all out with like full production on it. It's like it's pretty crazy. It's like if I remember right, there's even some songs with like full like orchestration, like really elaborate, like beautiful production for these very silly songs.
Nice.
Man.
Yeah. Who's next?
Right, well, who did we say was next?
It'll be me. Yep. So just a disclaimer: 90% of the information I'm about to share I got from 3 episodes of a show, and then about 10% I got from a fan Wikipedia, like a Wikipedia thing. It's an indie rock, punk rock supergroup quartet. originally named the Pickled Beats, which is a spoof from the Beatles, Silver Beatles. Their sound is a parody of the Ramones. This band's led by Monroe Yoder, who's lead singer, bass. And Monroe is a phonemic anagram for Ramones. He is, let's see here, and his character is based on John Lennon. The drummer's name is Chap Lipman, who's based off of Ringo Starr.
Oh, I know this band. Okay.
Wendy Nespa, who is a keyboard / tuba player and vocalist, is based on Paul McCartney. And then you have Flounder. They have a member named Flounder on guitar, who's based on George Harrison. This band is the Beats. They were made popular from the American animated series on Nickelodeon, created by Jim Jenkins and produced by Jumbo Pictures. This show focused on early adolescent life. It was basically like Boy Meets World, but it's closer to the Wonder Years, where the main character's narrating. But then you got a dash of Rugrats, where, if you know the show Rugrats, where his imagination takes over, and there's a whole, there's a whole little story going on that's completely exaggerated. The show went from 1991 to 1999, lasted 7 seasons, 4 seasons under the name Doug, 2 seasons under the name Brand Spanking New Doug, which got made fun of a lot. Everyone called it Spanking Nude Doug. And then they changed it to Disney's Doug on season 7. The Beats began jamming and recording basement tape sessions at the house of Melvin B. Yates, who became sheriff of Bloatsburg and considers himself an OG beathead. The Beats fan base was called Beatheads, but then it eventually evolved into Beatniks. They drove the K Bluff Beats bus, which was the radio bus would just basically take a large piece of paper, a poster, and just stick it over it so it looked like the band's actual tour bus. So it was not really legitimate, but they did their best on a budget. Their first hit single was titled "Where Is My Sock?" And it was actually about Sheriff B. Melvin Yates' sock. He lost his sock while they were recording their sessions, and that was one of the first hits. Their chap Lipman, the drummer, didn't have a drum set when the band started, so he would just hit different things in his shed. And with that, they wrote the song that catapulted them into stardom, Killer Tofu.
Yep.
Killer Tofu's original title was Szechuan Bean Curd, but they found it too hard to rhyme. Again, this is all from 3 episodes of Doug, all of this.
Were they consecutive episodes or sporadic?
Sporadic.
Okay.
And lyrics go, fast food feels fuzzy because it's made from stuff that's scuzzy. I always thought I was such a nerd. I refused to touch that strange bean curd. I wouldn't eat it, but it ate you. So he's talking about gross fast food eating somebody. And I know in a kid's show, this is like a positive message. I think they're trying to try to get you to eat healthy, but they're trying to do it in a cool way maybe. But I eat my sugar cereal, but it makes my teeth bacterial. Those are my favorite lines from the song, but you see the theme there. And then my favorite song by them, is called I Need Mo, M-O, Allowance. They played this, I believe they played this at their free concert in Bluffington High, opening for the Bluffington Yodelers. Let me see if I have the
like you're the biographer.
Let me see. Oh, and in this song,
always famous except for the Doug band.
I have a question here.
Yeah.
So this is 3 episodes of the cartoon. I never really saw this cartoon, and I was aware of it. So is all the information is some of this information being filled out by fans of the show?
The
it's
creators.
all in there, even though it was only a 3-episode storyline.
In 3 episodes, they go over facts, little hidden tidbits, like with the Beatles, they had I believe it was it John is dead or Paul is dead if you play it backwards and things like that. They would put they're basically, this band is based on the Beatles, so they're building their own kind of universe on this band within the episode.
Wow.
Within the episodes, and I just love, like you were saying with Spinal Tap, the attention to detail is on another level, where you get lost in the mythos of the band itself.
Yeah. Crazy. I would have thought this was a very big part of a show that ran for 7 seasons with all this information.
Yeah, no, this is just 3 episodes, just a part of a show, and they were I want to say they're the main part of maybe 2 episodes, and then they kind of have a brief appearance in the 3rd episode. But they literally have a fact where it goes, if you slow down the song, you can hear Wendy Nezpot sing "I Love Cheese." Like little stupid things. They play a show at Bluffington High with Mr. Dink, who's the principal, the angry, mean principal. Dink. His band, his yodeling group, the Bluffington Yodelers, they take the song they're singing and they add yodelahis into their chorus. So they're a very, this band pulls from a lot of different inspirations, which I thought was really cool. The song goes, I need more allowance, yodelahi. I need more allowance, yodelahi who. Yo, and this is the perspective of a kid talking to his parents. Yo, I'm talking to you. I need to buy some CDs. I need to buy some gum. I'll mow the grass. I'll clean the house. I think I deserve some more allowance. As a kid, lost my shit to that. I saw that on TV. I lost it.
I would feel like mowing the lawn, and what was the other chore?
Let's see. I'll mow the grass. I'll clean the house. I think I deserve some more allowance.
That would cover CDs and gum. I think
mowing
and cleaning the house would cover CDs and gum. What are we talking here? Like $15 tops?
Yeah, not asking a lot. Definitely not asking a lot. On their album, Beats Me, there is a microscopic photo of the drummer Chap Lippman recovering after his gallbladder surgery.
Microscopic?
Yes, that's one of the fans. Like, if you're a true beatnik, you know about this fact. Which I thought was
the show, or is this something that the internet has discovered?
No, this is in the show. They're on the K-Buff tour bus.
You can't just determine what's real and what's not.
That's what I mean. It's insane. The level of
detail is amazing.
That's what I'm saying. And the fact they fit this on the 3 episodes, and the episodes they're not always fully about this band. They're just fans of this band, and they just, when you hear them talking with like fans talking to other fans, or like they'll show interviews on TV before the big concert or the big tour, and they'll just rattle off these facts. And I'm sitting here watching this in my 30s like, wow, I didn't appreciate this at all as a kid.
Wow.
Let me see. So album titles are The What Album, which is a parody of the White Album, Let It Beat, which is obviously a parody of Let It Be, Meet the Beats, which is a parody of Meet the Beatles.
Oh, wait, quick question. Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure, yeah.
The Beatles exist in the world of this band, or as far as their fans?
This is the Beatles, basically. This is the Beatles. Okay. And I saw a poster on the wall in one of the bedrooms that just said, and it was around all the Beats posters, it just said, "Cranberry juice is for lovers." I saw that. I was like,
thinking of Virginia. I think you're thinking of Virginia.
I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? I'm going to be stuck with that for the rest of my life, not understanding why cranberry juice is for lovers. Why? What is it about that? So, but that's a part of the mythos, their whole band universe. They have guitar solos, they have tuba solos, they have drum solos. Their biggest tour was the Killer Tofu World Tour. They sound perfect live as they do recorded, because it's just one recording. So Fred Newman, who was a voice actor that was basically all the music for the show and a lot of other Nickelodeon shows and Disney shows, he recorded these tracks. He did all the voice, most of the vocals on it, most of everything, I believe. And Yeah, they play live. It's the same song. It's a TV commercial of them. That's the same song. Skeeter or Doug are listening to it on their radio. It's the same recording, so they play perfectly. 10 out of 10 live.
Can I ask another question again,
Yes.
without being familiar with the show? So, does this band involve main characters from the show, or is it just a band that? Okay, it does.
So Doug and Skeeter miss the concert, and they're at the Honker Burger.
Okay.
And the Beats, I believe they just finish up their concert in Bloatsburg, and they stop at the Honker Burger, and Doug and Skeeter.
It's like right on the edge of racist and offensive, but not quite going over that.
90s cartoons, 90s cartoons. And so they're rocking out, they're jamming out, trying to make themselves feel better that they went on this adventure as friends, they missed the concert. They were bringing the concert to them. They're just sitting outside this restaurant playing air guitar, and who shows up? Who else shows up but the Beats show up to get food after the show, and they witness them rocking out to their song, and they start rocking out with Doug and rocking out with Skeeter and telling them that they have a future in music one day, and you know, and they give them honorary like tour jackets.
Okay.
So there's an amazing.
Did any of the Beats members have like Beatles London accents?
All of them, yeah.
Oh, that's great. So like the drummer sounded like Ringo Starr.
Exactly like Ringo.
That's awesome.
So, but the members of the Beats, they're not. They just exist like as a band in the show. They're not
they're not like
they're not
characters doing a band. Yeah.
No. They only exist in the show. A band took their name and wrote other songs, and they're nothing like there's an indie band called The Beats, but I'm pretty sure it's just a regular band. I don't know if it's a parody band. I didn't look into it. They're not the Beats that I grew up with.
Well, one thing I was trying to get at is because like it kind of made me think of The Simpsons, and another maybe strong contender for fictional band was the episode where they're the Bee Sharps.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Where,
Yep.
It's they like Homer and Principal Skinner and Barney and I can't remember who the other characters are. Chief Wiggum is involved at one point.
Yep.
They start a cappella group, and it becomes like one of the most successful groups of all time. And there's a lot of Beatles parodies and references in it, but they almost make it a joke of like not of like how no one has ever talked about this, how like it's never been a part of the show, that this is part of their history, and then it's never mentioned again for the rest of the entire series. Like, so I wasn't sure if we were dealing with something like that where these characters formed a band that was briefly part of the show, and then like it's never talked about. But it's a different thing than that. It sounds like that this is just a band that exists in the universe of Doug.
Yeah.
It exists in the universe, and it's most of Doug's friends' favorite band. It's
Okay.
and it hit Bluffington and Bloatsburg the way the Beatles wave through the United States.
Saying that.
I don't know, every time you say Bloatsburg, it makes me laugh for some reason.
I love this era of cartoons, man. They're just on another level. 90s
Was,
90s cartoons.
Was Patty Mayo a fan of the Beats?
Absolutely. She actually did. You know, when you go to like Six Flags or any amusement park, and some of them will have like this own like recording little booth that you can go into. Patty Mayonnaise covers Killer Tofu because she's such a fan.
Joe, I'm a little disturbed at the part of the story where you mentioned that Skeeter and Doug didn't make it to the show, but their solve for that was they pulled over into a parking lot. They decided to air guitar the songs of the band, and they convinced themselves that that was just as good as being at the show. So I want to paint a scenario for John and Greg. So imagine we were driving up to Greenville, South Carolina. For whatever reason, we got a flat tire. We weren't able to make it to the show. I looked John dead ass in the eyes, and I said, John, I have an idea. How about we step out of this car right now in the parking lot of this 7-Eleven?
Yeah.
We pretend that we're the members of Pearl Jam,
Yeah.
and it will be exactly as if we are at the show.
I think it would work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Pearl Jam shows up at that 7-Eleven.
Yeah. To get some big gulps.
So anyway,
The nerve! I'm just stirred by the hubris of Skeeter of pitching that as a solution. Could you
I
imagine?
think it was Doug. Doug cheered up Skeeter, and they may have had the radio with them. So I'm pretty sure he clicks on a radio, plays a song, and just starts jamming out and singing his lungs out, shouting his lungs out. And then Skeeter joining in, and then being like, you know what? We did something today. This is a part of us growing together as friends. We went through a lot to get here, and screw it, let's just party. And
It's a positive message.
yeah. And unfortunately, it's a beautiful story, but they all have an end. And the Beats break up.
Oh no.
Yeah. The reason for their breakup is they found each other incredibly rude. Everyone found everyone else in the band incredibly rude. And so much that Flounder, the member Flounder of the band, quit on national television.
What? Oh, God.
Doug's in surprise, turns on the TV to find out. And this isn't like spanking new Doug or Disney's Doug. This is when the fans weren't really on board as much. So clearly they had to break up the Beats as well. They already broke up the fan base by switching networks, switching to the other guys. And oh man, it's not a good way to end. But there's a commonality in the Beats breaking up and Doug becoming spanking new and Disney's Doug.
Stop saying that. I can't believe they went with that title. I feel like if you were an executive for Nickelodeon, you would come up with that title, you would run it by, you would show it to a group of 15-year-olds. You would, and like, do you chuckle at this? Okay, we're not going with it.
Yeah, spanking new Doug. So they had after 14 years of being a band, the Beats go on their farewell tour. It's called No Mas Farewell Tour. Their final show is in the small town of Acrimony. Population, it showed a map on the news report. Population 1,280. Acrimony is just north of Bloatsburg, a town called Bumpo, a town called Zachpot, and it's south of a town called House Dressing and a town called Pee-wee. This is on a map. I got it on my phone. This is how much weed did they smoke writing this show? Like, I don't like this map. Look at this is on the news report. They made a little map to tell you where the last show was and how to get there. And they have a town called House Dressing and a town called Bumpo.
I don't know if that's weed, man. I think that's dead sobriety and a lot of time on your hands.
But yeah, this is why I chose the Beats as the greatest fictional band of all time. I will give the title to Spinal Tap based on how big it is, and not a competition, but I will say maybe second greatest. Who knows? It's not a competition again. The reason I picked the Beats as the greatest fictional band is they started from nothing. Members didn't even have instruments, and they recorded 2 hit songs. Every member has a solo. Puns for days. They have more puns than anything in cartoon history. They're humble in their interviews. When they meet Doug and his friends, they build them up. They inspire. They inspired millions. They inspired Doug so much that he wrote a song called Banging on a Trash Can by Doug's Garage Band, and it inspired his singer-songwriter banjo effort in other episodes. The Beats retire together. When they retired, there's a fantasy flashback of after them breaking up in the end of one of the episodes, and they reside at the old Beats Head home in Bloatsburg. So even the band's broken up, they're still living together, they're still friends, they're still the Beats. So if you're the only girl or guy in Bluffington without a favorite band, you just can't beat the Beats.
Wow. Well done, Joe.
They all retired together and went to the same retirement home?
That's named after them.
How old were they when they stopped being a band?
I don't know. They were banned for 14 years, and some of them didn't even have instruments. They look like adults in the show, but I'm thinking they're supposed to be like teenagers or 20s in their 20s.
Well, and also, if you can stand to live together in retirement, can't you just make it work as a band? I mean,
We will never know until there's a brand spanking new Doug. Like unless
That's
they
a
spank
really
again.
good point. Because
they ever have a
bands break up, they're like, we can't do this
yeah,
together.
we got to go our separate ways.
I
Not
believe
live in
they
a
come
house
back.
together.
I believe they come back together.
I think the best solution is we should just drop our passion and then just go live together. Like we should stop doing the one thing we love, but let's keep the tour aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The most difficult aspect of it, living together day to day with none of the fun or passion.
Doing that.
Only thing I forgot is, and I'll end on this. I had their album. I gave the album title, so I got that. Some of the song titles. So not these songs are written down like they exist and they're talked about in the show, but you never hear them. So they're like songs that don't exist. So if you're out there and you have a lot of time on your hands, you need to make these songs exist and bring them into reality.
That was one thing I was going to ask. Do they have any recorded? So they did play some songs on the show. Did they put anything? Is there anything out?
Yes.
Did they release some music from the show? With
Yes,
them?
it's on Spotify. I hope we make a playlist. I can't wait to put them on there. The songs that I did not mention are I Sneezed on My Face. Which,
what did you just say?
it's the name of the song. I Sneezed on My Face, which was the first #1 hit single. Well,
That's a hit single?
yes, but in the show, they tell you the first song is they tell you I Sneezed on My Face is their first hit single. They tell you that Shout My Lungs Out is. They tell you that Killer Tofu is. So they don't keep up with the storytelling. They break and forget what the actual facts are in the show. Clearly, if they can't have all the first hit songs can't all be different songs. But that's based on I Just Seen a Face by the Beatles from Help 1965.
Okay. So, but is that an actual song? Is I Sneezed on My Face?
It's mentioned. It's a mentioned
But I
song.
mean, can you find it on Spotify as recorded?
Cannot find it. Cannot. But this is the only other song. They have a song called Zombie Girlfriend, which I've never heard. It's mentioned in a book because it was a Doug book, but I didn't get into that. But the one piece of a song that I heard that's not a full song is called My Foot's Asleep. And the lyrics go, my foot's asleep, my foot's asleep. I got no feeling because my shoes are cheap. And that's it. Just one line makes that song. And that's everything I could, that's everything I could find on Nickelodeon's and Disney's Doug fictional band, The Beats.
All right. Wow. That's a lot. There's a lot there.
3 episodes.
So good. I hate to follow you. That's why I always like to go first. I hate to follow you.
I had to follow Spinal Tap. That was rough.
No, gosh.
I did not have the nearly the amount of information.
I got too much time. Way too much time on my hands.
Yeah, I'm gonna sum mine up in about 2 sentences.
Good.
So, but yours was amazing. But all right, so I'm up. So before I go, in this is my favorite. I had so much fun doing this because I love fake bands, and apparently that's illustrated by the amount of fake bands that I currently have in my iTunes. So I did a search through my iTunes, and I currently have 10 songs from various fake bands in my iTunes right now. And those songs are "Going Down" by Infinite Sorrow from Get 'Em to the Greek, which is a fantastic fucking song. Fever Dog by Stillwater from Almost Famous, also a fantastic song. Probably my favorite of all the fake songs, Stand Up and Shout by Steel Dragon, Mark Wahlberg's band from Rockstar, which is an amazing song. Probably only 2 insincere fake songs I have currently on my iTunes are Friends Forever and Go For It Friends Forever by Zack Attack and Go For It by Hot Sunday, both from Saved by the Bell.
Wait, I don't know who's Hot Sunday. I don't know.
Wasn't that the girls?
Jesse and Lisa's band.
Oh.
And Friends Forever they were all sort of a
Zack Attack, I know.
Zack Attack is good, but Go For It is legit good. If you have a chance, I recommend. I'll send a link to the group chat.
Please.
In Time by Wild Stallions from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which is look at me, all of you right now. It is a fucking amazing song, and I'm not kidding. So if you get a chance, check out In Time by Wild Stallions. It's amazing.
Is that in the original Bill and Ted or the
Yeah, and I think the
sequel?
band that did it, the band is called like Rob something, but recording it as Wild Stallions.
Okay.
But it's a really amazing song, and I'm not bullshitting. It's fantastic. One of my personal favorites is River Bottom Nightmare Band, as recorded by the band of the same name from Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. It's a fantastic song.
Classic.
And the only two, the two most obscure fake band songs I have in my playlist are songs for some reason I feel like John would know, but I don't know. But they're I'm a Boinger and You Stink, But I Love You, as recorded by the fake band from the Bloom County comic Billy and the Boingers.
Whoa.
Are you
That's really,
familiar
no,
with
that's past my
kind of a big
that's
80s
outside my wheelhouse. Wait, so the comic?
Yes, so there's a comic called Bloom County, and they had a
I'm-
penguin.
I'm familiar with Bloom County, but yeah, that's pretty obscure.
And every now and then they would release what's the word I'm looking for? Like when Garfield would release not compilations of their comics every now and then. And this particular compilation was called Billy and the Boingers, and they included an actual vinyl album in the comics compilation.
Wow.
Because part of the storyline of the book was that Opus the Penguin and everyone else in Bloom County started a band called Billy and the Boingers. And it's fantastic, and they're great songs. So those are the two most obscure fake. So I've got like 10 fake band songs in my Apple iTunes playlist right now, but not including my pick for favorite fake band. And my pick is not a fun one. Joe's was really good. Mine is a guy named Brian Metro. And Brian Metro comes to you from the Bret Easton Ellis universe. I have always been obsessed with Los Angeles, and more specifically 1980s Los Angeles. And this obsession kind of began when I was a freshman in college. I read a book called Less Than Zero by my favorite author. Now, wasn't at the time, obviously, but Bret Easton Ellis. And he does I guess you can't really say the book takes place in the 80s because it was written in the 80s. So it's not like a period piece, but he does a really good job of world building. If you go on to read all of his books, they don't really have anything to do with each other, but they all share similar characters and instances. And it's kind of like
Tarantino.
Exactly. I was just going to say it's Quentin Tarantino, where like they take place at different timelines and
people are related, but they're not in the same movie.
Exactly. And something that Bret Easton Ellis is fantastic at doing is blending the fictional with the real. So if you were to read Less Than Zero, which is my favorite book of all time, and I recommend that you all read it. I mean, you're in the quarantine, we have a free time, but he's very good at referencing like real bands, and then he'll make up a fake band. And it's very hard, like, oh my gosh, this sounds familiar. So you have to kind of go back and Google and be like, is this a real band or not? And if you weren't around in the 80s, you don't really know if it was a real band or not. And Brian Metro was a lead character in a book called The Informers. And it's a lot cooler to have a favorite band from a book because you can imagine what they sound like just based on context clues, the people they hang out with, the video, the type of video they're recording. It's a lot of fun to kind of imagine what Brian Metro would sound like. And I always imagine Brian Metro to be kind of a Billy Idol guy, because I feel like Brian Metro, Billy Idol, kind of sounds familiar. He's an English guy. I always imagine him to be sort of an English punk artist. But then the Informers movie came out, and they gave him a sound, and they gave him a band, and it was more Depeche Mode. He sounds like Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode. But on the soundtrack for the Informers film, Brian Metro does have a song called Only You, and it's a fantastic song. But I don't know if the song is what sells me on Brian Metro. The thing about the Bret Easton Ellis novels is that sort of a common theme of writing is, in order to advance the plot, you have a character, a main character, a protagonist, or as Greg would call, a protagonist. Exactly. That either creates or reacts to what's called given circumstances. Like it's something, a scenario that advances the plot. But Bret Easton Ellis's characters neither create or react to anything going around next to them. So you have a very interesting dichotomy of a main character who is going through a span of time in which people are saying things to them and things are happening around them, but they're so ambivalent that they're, and a lot of this has to do with drugs, that they're just not reacting to it. So you have two very interesting, it's a very interesting dichotomy that Bret Easton Ellis kind of captures throughout all of his books. And Brian Metro, this fictional musician, is the epitome of that. Like he's an English musician who flies to Japan, and he finds out that his wife is leaving him and she's cutting off custody with his kid. And that would be something that you would react to pretty significantly, but he's so hopped up on drugs that he just reacts to it so ambivalently. So it's almost like there's two stories going on. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I really enjoy the Brian Metro narrative from the book Informers, but I also really enjoy his song called Only You. And if I was that age in the 80s, I think I really would have appreciated his music.
So can I ask I have a question right off the bat. So you got to read the book and imagine this guy like way before you saw the movie, right? And imagine his music. So was it disappointing in the movie at first, like when you see the way it's presented and it doesn't match with what you imagined it being?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I think that's the coolest thing about experiencing like a band in a book, is you can kind of imagine what they sound like. And he kind of looked like, in the movie, he looked like what I thought he would look like. He looks something like Zoolander in the movie, but in the book, they don't really mention him in a band. They mention him as a solo artist, and they really go into his backstory in the book. For example, like I was saying earlier, there's a movie in Less Than Zero. All of the lead characters' parents are movie producers, and so they mention a movie that they're working on. And so then in Informers, they mentioned that they asked Brian Metro to do a song for one of the movies that was mentioned in Less Than Zero. And it's one of those things where it's like two sentences where you wouldn't get it unless you've read the books multiple times. But when I was reading the book, I thought he was more of a Billy Idol, more of a solo punk artist.
Yeah.
But in the movie, his band is kind of the thing. He's not really the act. His band is the act.
Okay.
But in the book, he's kind of the thing. But that's always my favorite thing. Like, I don't know I'm trying to think of how to advance this conversation and make it interesting. But the thing that's always drawn me to Bret Easton Ellis is the way that his characters kind of move through life with sort of this vapidity that I think we mentioned this earlier, John, when we were talking about, and when I say earlier, like a few episodes ago, when we were talking about Train Spotting, and it was really a bipolarizing film because the characters all ended up in these horrible circumstances, but at the beginning of the film, they were also charismatic, and you kind of don't know which side to root for. And in the book, at least, Brian Metro was the same kind of character. He was a very cool character. I hate to say aspirational because that's horrible, but he just seemed like he was written so cool, but his life ended up in such a horrible place. And so you're torn between, like, how do I react to a character like this? And I feel like no author represents that character or can write that character like Bret Easton Ellis can. All his characters are like that. So I thought that Brian Metro was such a cool character who met such a horrific fate. But it was just as a character, I feel like a lot of you guys have been talking about songs, but I feel like as a character, Brian Metro is a fake music artist that I could really relate to. But his song is really good as well. It's called Only You.
Only You. Can't wait to hear that.
Yeah, yours was way more fun than mine was. I hate to bring
Oh,
it up.
dude, but yours is heavy. Like that's
I know, I know.
cool. Like I don't know anything about this at all. Like
Yeah.
the movie, the book, none of it. This is all new
The
to
book
me.
is fantastic. The movie is a solid 5 out of 10. I don't know if I would recommend the movie, but the book is
The
really good.
Spinal Tap movies and the ones by those guys, I was looking up on IMDb, they're all pretty high scores. And I don't like IMDb. I like Rotten Tomatoes a little bit more for rating, but they're all like 7, 8. I think the lowest was 6.6.
Yeah.
So this one you're saying is a 5.
The
So I
movie's
have
not
to read
that
the book.
good. I would absolutely recommend reading the book Informers, though. I think if you're listening to the podcast, and of the 3 of us that have gone, if you have a choice of watching Spinal Tap, Doug, or Informers, I would say go Spinal Tap. Informers, not a great movie. But
I read the Informer's book. You let me borrow it. I loved it.
yeah, I think you still have my copy. I was going to research for this podcast. Did you give it back?
I just got up a second ago to check my bookshelf and it's not there. So
Oh, okay. So
I
maybe
gave it back.
Yeah, the book is great. The book is great, man. And Bret Easton Ellis is so good at writing 80s LA because he wrote the books in the 80s in LA. It's not like a period piece. He actually wrote it in the 80s. So if you have any interest in 1980s LA, I recommend Bret Easton Ellis.
I've never read any of his books, and
Oh my gosh, you would love them. You would love them.
You wrote
You-
American Psycho?
oh really?
Yeah, he was the
Wow.
American Psycho guy. I mean, that was
Yep.
that one was a little crazy.
Yep.
That was the one book that didn't take place in LA, and so I kind of differentiate myself from that. But that was his biggest hit. Like regrettably, American Psycho was his biggest hit, and
So understanding that movie and seeing it I've seen it probably 3 or 4 times. I have an idea of his other characters, like what you're saying. I have a
every
better,
single one of them is that. Every single character,
but not murdering people in their head, or if he does in real, we'll never know based on the movie. But yeah,
exactly.
wow,
So
you should make
you have a
more.
good idea of what it is.
Did anyone read the book of American Psycho?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I read it the same year I read Less Than Zero.
I've heard it's like a lot more difficult or a lot more harsh and kind of graphic than the movie even, which is really saying something because they really went for it with the movie.
Yeah, American Psycho is a horrifying book. And I remember when the movie came out, everybody was saying how clever it was that all the murders were all in his head. And in the book, I did not get that at all. In the book, I was like, no, I don't know if you're, it was.
So is that not, so did they change that then? Or like they make it sort of ambiguous, I think, in the movie, but it kind of seems like it was all in his head. But
in the movie,
not the same in the book?
No, in the movie, they make it ambiguous, but the consensus is that it was all in his head. But in the book, I didn't pick up on any ambiguity. In the book, I thought it was all really happening.
Do they stick a cat in an ATM machine in the book?
I think so. But the book is like, if you've never read American Psycho, the book, it is disgusting. It is disgusting. And I think
Not for me.
the out was, he was like, it didn't really happen, but no, they don't really give you that sense in the book. In the book, it's pretty straightforward that it all happened, but I just might be missing it. And I read it when I was a freshman in college, so I might have missed the undertones, but
Right.
Interesting. I probably won't read. I actually remember thinking about reading it and then like kind of hearing more about it, and it's like I don't think I need to spend all that time in that fictional world in a book. Like
I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I've listened to Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin and a lot of Lord of the Rings, and I tried to listen to the books that Game of Thrones is based off of, and it's gross. Like any gross book where it's super gory, I can't do it. I was like trying to like kind of half listen while I was sleeping, and it's just like the details of the murders, you're like, you can't. Like some books you just can't if you're too squeamish. It's so weird to think that a book can, if you're squeamish with certain gory movies, that a book can do that to you, and it's just like text, but it
like
does.
your imagination takes over, and I feel like your imagination is much more horrific than anything you could see in a movie. Because when you watch a movie, even if it's gory, there's still that thing like, well, clearly this is special effects and whatever, but in your brain, you can really picture everything without any special effects, and your imagination really can do a number on you.
It's why Jaws is so powerful before you see the shark. Before you see the shark, that movie is terrifying.
Yeah.
After you see the shark, it's kind of funny. Like,
yeah, it's almost ridiculous now when you
yeah.
But that's a great point. To bring it all back around, kind of related to what you said, the same applies for the sound of a band. So whenever they would mention Brian Metro in The Informers, and they would just list one or two of his lyrics, it was really fun to kind of imagine what he sounded like.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
That's so cool. I can't wait to read those lyrics. I'm going to find them.
I don't know if the lyrics are great. I think that's kind of the point. I think the point is he's not a great musician.
I love it.
But his song sounds pretty cool. So Only You by Brian Metro. Sounds a lot like Depeche Mode.
Brian Metro, Depeche Mode.
All right, let's do it.
All right, Greg, what do you have? Are you preparing something for this?
No, I had to, sorry, I had to get my charger for the laptop. The Zoom keeps going.
I was expecting you to maybe come back in character or something.
Yeah, me too.
I thought about it, but I'm no Michael McKean.
If you
All
are.
right, so I took a film from the year 2000, directed by Cameron Crowe, based off some real life experiences. That movie is Almost Famous, and the band is called Stillwater.
Yes.
It's not so much that the band is good, because the story is not really about the band as much as the youngster following the band around and Kate Hudson and all that crap. But overall, I think I might have blurred the line here of like favorite movie about a band versus my favorite fictional band. But overall, they're pretty great. Some good actors are playing it. I didn't know Mike McCready was involved with the song making as well.
From Pearl Jam?
Yeah.
Who is that?
Pearl Jam or Mike McCready?
Tell me who Mike McCready is first, and then tell me who Pearl Jam is.
Mike McCready is in Pearl Jam, and he was the talent behind Russell Hammond, who was Stillwater's lead guitarist. Yeah.
I know Russell Hammond, but Mike McCready is the one I'm a little unclear on.
So then, and I think Nancy, who was the Nancy Wilson from Heart plays rhythm guitar in all the songs.
Yeah, that's Cameron Crowe's wife. Cameron Crowe's wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
And then, yeah, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot. I'm sure all of us have seen Almost Famous.
Yeah.
I think it's like it's like, whereas like Spinal Tap is like a spoofier kind of movie, I think Almost Famous shows a little bit more of a serious side of the late 70s rock band there, because Cameron Crowe, I guess he worked for Rolling Stone when he was starting out and all that, and he lived a bunch of these experiences, so it's sort of an autobiographical film, which I didn't know either.
Yeah, so maybe you can tell me this from I had heard that the band was somewhat based off of Led Zeppelin, but I don't know if that's true.
Led Zeppelin and
Cameron Crowe actually interviewed and followed. I'm sure it's probably a combination of bands, but
yeah, there's definitely a combination of bands, because it said that a lot of it was mainly like the Allman Brothers too.
Okay.
Eagles and Leonard Skinner and stuff like that. So I think Stillwater's is just like a big mashup of all of them, and all of those bands are great. So, but yeah, it's a great movie. I love all the live like footage. Like Jason Lee is in Stillwater. He's a great actor. He does really well.
Does he actually sing? I feel like I remembered something about. Oh, he doesn't?
No, it's another guy.
Did none of them actually play or do anything?
I don't think so. I think that's why they had like Mike McCready and the Nancy lady. Like they did all the real like playing.
Okay.
Which is fine. I mean.
Oh, of course, yeah.
It's a lot of work to try to learn really good songs. But Fever Dog, Mike mentioned, great song.
Yeah.
Dude, there's a scene in that movie, John. I don't know how long it's been since you've seen that movie, and I've only seen it once in 2000 when it came out. But I still remember this to this day, man. When they first walked out onto the stage that first time and they performed Fever Dream, to me, it was
Fever
like
Dog.
Fever Dog, sorry. To me, it was like I was at that concert. It was
Mhm.
amazing. If you get a chance, go back
They
and
built
watch
it up pretty good.
Yeah.
Because I can never remember the kid's name in the movie.
Oh yeah.
But him and like Kate Hudson are on the side of the stage, and
Exactly. And he's writing everything down and she takes the pen and she throws it.
Yeah.
Kind of like everybody holds their fucking phones up today.
Yeah.
He's like taking notes and she grabs the pen and she throws it. And she's like, no.
then
And so
like
then
Billy Crudup gets up on the roof. He's like, "I am God," or whatever he said. I am a God, and everyone's like, "More," and they ends up, yeah, it was fun. And
Yeah.
like,
I need to go back and watch that. That was
I
a
do.
good
I got to go back and
the
watch that.
soundtrack's incredible too. Like, it hits all those great songs from back then. Like they have a huge sing along on the bus to Tiny Dancer, which like back in the 70s, that song was like massive. So everyone's singing it at the end. It was nice. Frances McDormand's in it as a
Right.
insane mother trying to find out where her teenage son went.
Yeah.
She's a great actress. She is awesome.
Yes.
Have you ever seen, John? I think I mentioned this to you. There's a song called it's a road in California. That's the name of the movie. Shit. Christian Bale is in it. Frances McDormand. Canyon, Laurel Canyon. Is that
Oh,
a?
I've never seen that.
It's fantastic.
Is that recent or has that been out? Was that a while ago?
This one actually came out in 2002, and
Okay.
it stars Christian Bale, Natasha McElhone. I don't know how to
Oh
pronounce.
yeah, no, she's great. She was in American Pie.
No.
Oh, she wasn't. Yes, she was. Yeah,
No, she was the girlfriend in
Natasha Leone.
Californication. I don't know if you ever watched Californication.
Oh, okay.
No, she's in American Pie. Hold on.
You're thinking of Natasha Leone. Mike.
Yeah. This
Oh,
is
okay. You're right.
but Kate Beckinsale's in it, who is lovely.
Huh.
So Christian Bale and Kate Beckinsale are a couple, and then Christian Bale's like a med school doctor, and Kate Beckinsale's some kind of scientist. And they go to Christian Bale's mother's house, who's Frances McDormand, who is a big time like record producer. And they go there to take a break so they could work on a relationship and also work with them. Like Christian Bale ends up hooking up with like Natasha McLeone, who's a nursing student as well. Christian Bale's wife ends up hooking up with the singer of the band that Frances McDormand is producing in the studio. And then it's such a great movie. You should watch it.
I'll check that out. Do they have then fictional music in that as well?
They do. That band is, oh man, it's an English band. It's a very much like an Oasis vibe. Like I feel like they pulled the guys from Oasis. Like here,
just act like
Yeah.
this.
I'm gonna check that out. I've never even
it's
heard
really
of it.
really good. And Mike, you love like California and all that, so it's very California driven. Laurel Canyon is, I guess, like an area.
Yeah, it's like a neighborhood, I think, out there.
So I would definitely check it out for sure. Trying to figure out the name of the band. But she's like, Frances McDormand is like that tough female, like music producer, like smoking cigarettes and drinking and getting crazy. Well, as like a tough woman music producer does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's an actual band from the 1970s named Stillwater.
There is, yes.
And the bands, and they have a list of the bands that they're based on of it. It's Poco, the Allman Brothers, Led Zeppelin, Eagles, and Leonard Skinner. That's cool.
It's so funny you say that because the song that I love, which I'm looking at, I don't want to say it wrong again, Fever Dog, sounds like all of those bands.
Yeah, they did a good job of sort of melding a bunch of different 70s sounds together with that.
Yeah, like when
On Netflix,
Transformers,
so everyone can watch it.
all the Constructicons would all come together and make Devastator. Kind of like that. It's very similar. Very
Good
similar.
analogy.
I feel like Cameron Crowe had that in mind
Hmm.
coming up with like, I want the Devastator of 70s films. And his wife from Heart was like, I've got it. I'm on it. Do you think that's how it went down, Joe?
Absolutely.
I think so.
So I had that reminded me of a little bit of a funny story. Of being on tour, I can't remember what band it was, but every once in a while there'll be some like grounding issues with electricity on a stage, and so you'll have a microphone where if you happen to touch your lips to it, it'll give you a shock. And so it's a varying. It's Joe knows what I'm talking about clearly.
Yeah, and it's always brown and rusted. The top of the mic is completely rusted, concaved in, and if you hold it even remotely more than level, it's just pouring other people's drool into your mouth. It is fucking awful. It's always the same microphone,
Yeah.
and when it shocks you, you feel it directly through to the back of your skull, and you just feel like an asshole because you're like you don't want to cut, you don't want to stop the song. You want to keep going, but you don't want to not sing into the microphone. So you keep being like, oh, like you keep putting your hand on the burner of a stove. You're just like, God damn it. You know what I mean? And yeah, I don't remember every stage that happened on for the most part. And the worst one was Skate and Surf. It was pouring out and it was me and Tim were both getting electrocuted right into our heads. Just.
Yeah. So we were on tour with a band, and one of the guys kept calling that getting fever dogged. Like, oh, you got fever dogged? Which I thought was great. And yeah, anybody who's been in a band and seen that movie knows exactly what he's talking about.
I always like the part when the kid's on the bus. He's like, I just want to go home. And then Kate Hudson's like, you are home.
Yeah.
That's real G-Man shit.
Yeah.
That's real G-Man shit. That seems like something you would really like.
If Kate Hudson went like that to me and said, you are home, I'd be like, okay, that's fine.
Okay, Kate Hudson. Whatever you say, Kate Hudson.
Whatever you say, home, Kate Hudson.
Yeah, we do that sarcastically to each other occasionally on the tour bus when we've been on the tour for too long. And somebody's freaking out and like,
oh, really?
But yeah, it's totally sarcastic, not in the
spiritual
presented in the movie. Yeah.
I do that at Woods of Old sometimes. I'll just walk up to someone when they're having a bad time and be like, you are home.
Or if you're taking number 2 on the bus, you could just open the door and just say, I'm home. I am home. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah. Totally reasonable.
All right, well, I think we wrapped it up pretty good. John, you got a football game to catch.
Yeah, we're wrapping it up just
wow, yeah.
for me to watch the Kansas City Chiefs.
I was super sad that the Washington football team got eliminated.
I know. I would have liked to just hear more about them just calling them the football team. That's really the only reason to
I'm such a big fan of boxing, and I'm looking forward to the day where I can cheer for a man named Boxer.
A boxer.
Anthony Joshua versus Boxer.
Generic boxer 1.
That's where we're headed. I hope that's where we're headed.
Oh.
yeah.
Well, that would be like, there is a band called The Band, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, who are you going to go see? Oh, The Band.
Is there a songwriter called Songwriter?
Should be.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Light bulbs.
In the movie Gladiator, Joaquin Phoenix was like, "What's your name?" And he goes, "Gladiator." So
I am the one.
They predicted it. They called it way back in Rome and BC.
You are home.
That's funny.
On that note,
yeah, I know I think we're gonna work on next week's episode, and then we'll see you then.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, yeah, I think we can talk about the topic off camera. We'll talk about if we have any special super secret guests coming up.
Well, that's a tease and a half.
Yeah.
Damn.
We'll see. We'll see.
Cool.
I don't want to tease anything too hard before we know if we have anything to tease.
True.
See.
That just makes you a podcast tease.
Exactly. It's the worst kind of tease.
We're all gonna get blue ears. All right.
Blue ears are a real thing. A real thing.
See you
That was
later.
the funniest thing you've ever said in your life.